The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here he is, Brandon.
Welcome to the Brandon Peters Show, coming to you from Doctoberfest 2024 Infiltrate. Once again, I'm here to be your guide to take you through many of the events and people that make Doctoberfest such a wonderful annual event here at Who North America in Camby, Indiana.
Cloning technique replicates from the single cell as a short-lived carbon copy. Efficacy of individuation not completely guaranteed.
Can you explain simply?
Negative.
So I'm Matt. I run a small prop shop called Inquisitor Props. The whole purpose of Inquisitor Props was to make affordable props for fans. So the two big things I've been doing this year is K9. He's made from fiberglass. He has a lineage to original BBC molds. I got him shipped from the UK flat, and then I repaired him. He does have working ears. Do you want to show the ears? He does talk. I don't know if you could hear that or not. The other big thing I did this year was these are wide slider sonic screwdrivers. They are based on the measurements of the actual prop. They were CNC'd, and I'm selling these as kits for $150, trying to make it a little more affordable for the fans. So, and I hope to expand into doing some other Sonics and hopefully a Sontaran mask in the future. I also make wands and other fantasy-related goods.
All right, it is another Doctoberfest, another year of Russell McGee.
Another year of Brandon Peters.
Another Brandon Peters show, Doctoberfest. Let's make this a thing. Let's keep going.
Keith,
like Janie.
Yes, Keith and Janie.
And it's very different.
Brandon seems to be doing well
all
as
right.
usual. Yeah,
I'm liking it. So, Russell, this year you're once again here for your audio engineering and your writing, but let's talk about other things that we've had in the past year and stuff, but you've got more writing coming.
I do.
In the works?
With Pencil Tip Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, shout out Bob. We're going to have a new Sarah Jane Smith story that's going to be dealing with a banshee of all things. And of course doing an alien twist on that, where it's about a creature that feeds on Sarah's emotional baggage that she's dealt with. And it's set precursor to her. Well, no, sorry. It's after she's left, obviously. So she's traveling on her own and investigating. She's sent by her publisher for a fluff story for a Halloween segment.
Of course, it's got to start that way. Yep.
Mm-hmm. and
it's
then
all fine.
She finds that there's a little more truth to what is there than she originally thought might be.
Does she show up with the blow up beach ball this time? With it's gonna be easy. This is gonna be no.
Yeah, no.
So, curious question: you ever thought about for your own collection, like some of the stories you've written, turning them into audio dramas at all? Like you've in the past engineered?
I would absolutely love it. I think I have had one story that has actually been done at Big Finish, but obviously I would love to be able to work more with Big Finish in that capacity. I've continued to do audio dramas outside of Big Finish, and I've more recently done an adaptation of A Watcher in the Woods, which listeners at home may know from the Disney movie, the adaptation in 1980 with Bette Davis. But the fun thing with this is I was able to work with the estate, get the rights to be able to do this, and we tied it in with the Indiana eclipse. and then we had Barbara Rosenblatt from Orange is the New Black.
Oh, wow,
and she also was just part of the Oscar-winning animated Miyazaki Boy and the Heron,
which is brilliant.
And then Sophie Aldred from Doctor Who. So I had both of them in this, and we did that.
Heard of her.
Had both of them in this wonderful adaptation that I was just lucky to be able to do and work with them on. And again, everything just linked up where between the eclipse and everything, and then also with what happened with Barb, it was just amazing how everything turned out.
Excellent. Love hearing that. And recently this past year, you've been Russell McGee documentarian.
Well, I mean, you know, I do work for the day job at a PBS station, so, you know, there is that.
So with real-time pictures, like, for the people, you know, we're working on a pair of them. Well, one's out, and then the other's coming, Keith told me, February still.
February, okay.
Yep,
okay.
February still.
See, I did not know that.
For the second one.
You've got the lowdown on that.
I got the lowdown on that one. Like, how did it just start? Because I know where you contacted me to be a part of it, but like, how did that start?
Because
that
of
guy,
this guy that just walked by, Mr. Keith Barnfather. we were see this guy.
He won't leave me alone.
He's back.
Obsessed. He sees the microphone and stuff, and he can't handle it. Can't help himself.
I have to throw a shout out here to Elwidius Pagan, because without him, I don't think we would be talking to Mr. Barnfather.
Maybe,
No, so that really is how this all came about.
We talked about technology, and I'm like, if this would have been the 80s or 90s, he's like, I wouldn't even be able to do this documentary because of the connectivity. He would have had to research, to find people, to you know, to hire out to us, to like, it's insane how we complain about these technologies, but they're also massively beneficial to all of us.
No, since the pandemic, and like both with video and audio, it's like that's how I was able to work with Sophie and Barb, because Barb was in New York, Sophie was in the UK, and similarly, actually Keith asked for some help to be able to interview Sean Lynn out in LA, and I was able to hook him up with a friend of mine that works out there. So you know, it's a much smaller world now, production-wise.
I have put the buzz out there to people who work on some bonus features that there is a guy around here who can do some professional stuff if people are in the area and you can't make it. I have put the buzz to that. So I hope maybe it comes to fruition, but who knows? But the documentary worked on that just kind of feels unreal, right? Like
it does, and
contributing to
You were the one who, like, after, because like I still haven't even seen it, and Brandon sent me like a clip and also some photos showing our names in the credit, and I asked Brandon to actually help out, and that's how you know, just keep on following down the rabbit hole of us doing Doctor Who together.
Like it's insane because I was just like, oh, and I just thought it was cool seeing our names. And someone I saw it and I showed it to, they were like, you realize that's your name over a dollar. I'm like, well, extra cool. I'm like, and I told Keith that, and he's like, I didn't do that, but I'll tell the guy who did the credits. I'll let him know you appreciated that. I'm like, yeah, that's just the cool, like, that's legit.
It is legit.
It's there. And then just going through these interviews, and do you want to tell people about the kind of the process we're doing with that?
As far as the interview process?
Like how we're assembling what we're assembling for. Let's go with the USA tour, because that seems to be the bulk of like a lot of the work we did.
A lot of that has been like reaching out to different fans that we know were around in the 80s and that actually went on the tour. And I'll give a shout out to Steve Warren Hill, Nick Seidler, Robert, and John Loveley. They all were as I knew, part of Red, White, and Who, and
Yeah.
a huge part of the fan community. And I knew that from what they had done with the research with Red, White, and Who, that they had, some of them at least, actually been there and taken
Right.
part. And the thing that was interesting, as you probably remember, is we got a really cool story from Nick, and then John gave us the counterpart of, he had an interesting, not so great experience in Chicago.
The contrast was great, and I was telling Keith this. I'm like, it's great because wherever you saw it, it was and whatever age you were, your perception of it was wildly different throughout these.
Yeah, because we also then later, like a couple months after that, interviewed Eloidus, and he had a completely different experience with Navy Pier in Chicago, and said he absolutely loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he was one of my favorites because, and he thought he was doing a bad job. I'm like, no, you going, he was last on the docket of them, and him going last, just I had to hold myself from cracking up with what he talked, his just general about it. Which sorry to spoil that, but it's great.
It is.
He delivers it better. So. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and
we've also been very lucky, and I give a shout out to Janie and Keith Bradbury, because they've been very gracious in allowing us to shoot here at Who North America, and that has just opened things up and makes it even look that much more professional with having those Doctor Who elements as props and
plenty
stuff
of backdrops.
Right behind. Yep.
We even did a day the store was closed. They let us in.
Yep.
And shot some. So.
A Sunday, because the store is usually not open then.
Yes. I was also telling Keith, who was interviewed for one of them, had him and Thomas Machen had the best setup punchline with the talking about cheese for no reason.
Macra and cheese.
And then talked about you know what they like to eat when I watch Doctor Who, macra and cheese and.
And now that is
probably not going to make it, but
it's an ongoing joke now as a result.
And I told it to somebody yesterday, and they died laughing. They were like, "Oh my gosh, that's good." So I was like, "I'm glad the joke wasn't just you had to be there, and we were all tired from filming."
No, but hey, like that also like speaks of the fun we're actually having on set when we're doing these interviews.
It's like one of my favorites was Larry VanMersbergen, because we were doing it and it felt like okay, that's enough, and then we hit a little point with a question and it just kept cooking and going in a direction none of them's had.
Right.
And he was delivering some very valuable information that wasn't on our radar at all at the time, and I was like, wow, okay. Because it could have been like, well, good, but there was just one question that kept it going probably for an extra 10 minutes or so. It was excellent.
That's also like one of the fun things about doing the interviews, Brandon, and you've also contributed in that way, is that like you never really know what you're going to get as you're doing the interview. Yeah. And like we have a set of standard questions that we're asking, but then you or like Eloidus or myself would throw in and like just interject different things that added to or pulled out more information, because we either talk to the person ahead of time or like something just like on the fly happens, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Like I used to think filming scenes and stuff was exciting, but like documentary filmmaking when you're really into it and everybody's there because they love it, it really comes out and it gets really exciting just interviewing people and hearing their stories. And then like Nick Seidler, like just love the guy. Like, right, I mean, how can you not fall for him after talking to him? It extends beyond the camera when he talks. It's amazing, and I like that. He
just is a great person in general, not just as a fan, just as a human being. He is so just genuine and positive and just very, very nice.
Yeah, the positivity they all exude is just unreal, and I'm like, that's what you should strive to be. That's what we need to strive to be. It's great.
But and we talk about this in the documentaries, but that's one of the things that's great about Doctor Who fans in general, man, is just like the community at large is just very inviting and welcoming, and the ethos and everything that we learned from the TV show is like exemplified in the way we express our fandom.
Yeah, and I was talking about Stephen Warren Hill, who runs Gallifrey Base and sees some of the ugliest of it, but like he knows in person it's never like that. Rarely does that exude. are you even a fan? Or, like, what are you just here for conflict or what? Like,
Right.
And the truth of the matter is, like, get off online. The real people out there love it, and there's more of us. And it's great. So, do you want to tease at all anything else you're working on, or?
I mean, you kind of hinted around about this, but also with the day job, I work at WTIU, which is a PBS affiliate station.
Yep.
And on top of what we've been doing with Keith with Real Time Pictures, we've also been working on a documentary series that we're hoping to tie in with Big Finish, and then would potentially have a full documentary that would come out in 2028, which, to my knowledge, I think there's only been one other Doctor Who documentary in America from the 80s or 90s.
Time for an update.
Yeah, so definitely time. And it would be nice to have another PBS documentary that could come out about Doctor Who.
Very cool, very cool. Excited to see where that goes. And
So
help
am
if
I.
you need it. So awesome. Well, Russell, where can people keep up with everything you got going on?
I'm on Facebook, Russell McGee. You can find me at starrynightproductions.com. That's my production company.
Right.
And or WTIU or Big Finish. Big Finish, just search my name and you can find all the different things I've worked on there.
All right. And sometimes you're on the Brandon Peters Show. So there you go.
Yes, Brandon Peters Show. Oh, and I must also, again, plug Bob with Pencil Tip Publishing.
All right. There we go. Excellent. All right. Thank you,
All
Russell.
Right. Thank you.
What in the name of sanity have you got on your head?
It's a fez. I wear a fez now. Fezes are cool.
Hi, I'm Wendy Swain. My company is William and Eleanor, and I make things out of recycled fabric. So I have oversized hot pads and microwave bowl cozies and some earrings that are made out of fabric. And I do quilts, handmade quilts. So that one is a bunch of small TARDIS, and this one was made out of leftover TARDIS fabric and Doctor Who fabric that I have used over the years to make patchwork quilts.
I'm here with Larry VanMersbergen, once again becoming a staple of Doctoberfest, as well as one of our great custodians of Doctor Who history in the United States.
Thank you so much, Brandon.
All right, welcome back.
It's good to be back.
How have you been this year?
Doing great. Doing great. It's been a great year. I can't complain. Lots happening. Just the start of convention season, so it's a wonderful time to be around here.
All right. What's your traveling history this year?
This year, I've decided to do a living history of classic Doctor Who books from 64 to 96, with the bulk of those books never being sold in the United States.
Right, okay.
And I thought it would be interesting to see them up close and get a little bit of history of what happened during those decades to produce these books. And of course, big things in the early 60s, early 70s, early 80s, mid 80s, and then kind of falters off in the 90s.
Gotcha. And you were showing me earlier, we were talking that there's a canine book that actually did get released in the United States. That was it recently discovered that happened? Or?
Actually, it's probably been one of those folklore myth things that the canine books by David Martin, there were 4 of them published in 1978 in the UK in paperback.
Okay.
And then someone said, hey, wait, I've got a hardcover one published by O'Rourke Publishing in 1981. And those were only sold in the United States, but probably only in children's book sections.
Okay.
But with no reference to Doctor Who on the cover, just K9.
Okay.
It would have been interesting to find those, but now they're very hard to find because many of those books didn't survive. They're children's like toys. They get played with, they get read, they get thrown away, donated. Some got donated to bookstores, some got donated to charity, but not a very easy book to find.
I did notice that the cover, the hardcover of it wasn't even reformatted in any way. They just kind of like, well, our size book is this, so we will just place that there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Why reinvent the wheel?
Right, yeah. We can just put it right there. No messy stuff added or anything like that. Very cool. What are some of the gems people looked for this year?
Well, as far as in the panel situation, the early books, for instance, the three big Dalek books that came out in 64 and 65, Dalek World, the Dalek book, and the Dalek Outer Space book, are ones that have not been seen here. And then later, of course, the Walls Ice Cream book that you could get for free. It had Patrick Troughton on it, and you had to buy the ice cream to get the cards.
Oh, very cool.
So lots of that stuff. Of course, I have one of the very first Target books. In fact, I can guarantee it's one of the first 5 out of the box because it used to belong to Chris Achilleos.
Yeah, I think we showed that last year.
I had it on my
written
table
thing
last
in
year.
there. Yeah, very, very cool.
And then, so just moving on from there, all the way to the BBC novel of the film from Paul McGann and the script of the film. So those were the last 2 to come out in '96, and then there was kind of a lull for a while, and then the Virgin kept going until they lost their license, and then of course in 2005 the floodgates opened.
Gotcha.
So I would not be able to cover 2005 to the present day because there more books came out.
Right. Very cool. So is there anything for a Doctoberfest attendee that would look like a most outrageous offer that's on your table?
I don't think so.
No?
I've been very careful. Pricing, I try to do average prices. I try to lower those a little bit because I'm not looking to make a profit here. All the sales of my items fund the podcast. That's the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast is a non-profit organization.
Right.
So we operate basically on donations and whatever I can sell that's extra. These are all books that I bought for the collection, but I already have them, so they go in the next pile.
Gotcha. See, he didn't fall for my trap there. He went.
I'm good.
He
at
went
this.
right there. So, what if people to check out your? What have you recently had going on? Who's been on your podcast recently?
My most recent guest was Mr. Neil Cole. He is the curator of the Museum of Sci-Fi Collectibles out in Northumberland, in England, and he has a book out called "It Belongs in a Museum."
Gotcha.
So his idea was to contact collectors who have original items from the Troughton era. For instance, the Cyber Controller complete costume is available, is out there. 2 Cyberman helmets from the moon base, one in good condition, one in ratty condition. Some of this, a space pirate helmet. So
that's
things
from
like
missing
that.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So he is trying to put these things. He's got a lot of donations. He's got a full-size pterodactyl in his museum. He's got drawings. He's an art teacher by trade. But what a great idea! And bought this old stone house and turned it into a beautiful museum.
Nice. That's a very good episode. It had some very cool stories in there to listen to. I
Absolutely
recommend. Myself, are you still doing you were doing like a Lost Stories series with like the...
Yes.
I did vocals for. Are you still trying to get that
going, we're still going. We're still discovering more work by the late Jean Airy, who was a wonderful woman. I met her back in the early 80s. She was best known for The Doctor and the Enterprise, which was a fanzine turned into a huge scandal when a publishing house decided to publish it without getting any permission from Paramount or the BBC, and so and nothing was done about it. But she actually actively fought against those profit things because she didn't get anything either for it.
Right.
But she wrote some amazing literature, and her stories were really quite good from the early 80s, and we're trying to get those back out into the public world again.
Gotcha. So if you want to do a reading of one of the stories for Larry, you could reach out to you. Your email is...
Contact me at DoctorWhoCollectorsPodcast@gmail.com, or you can find it on our website at DoctorWhoCollectors.com.
Okay, very cool, very cool. So yeah, it's been Larry. Thanks for coming on again, and
Thank you,
I hope you hope to see you next year at Doctoberfest as well.
I think I have to be here now.
All right, yeah, it's becoming a group. It's like we have to have it. So all right, very much. Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Larry VanMersbergen.
Conquer the galaxy, unimaginable power, unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
Hi, my name's Elbert Smith, and I'm an artist and a filmmaker. I brought my art with me today. I work for the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, and I do art for their magazine, The Celestial Toy Room. I'm also a filmmaker. I work for Trauma Productions. I do video editing for them, and I'm also getting my master's degree in screenwriting from University of Georgia. So I guess my goal is I want to do comics, and I want to do film and television, and the magazine was looking for artists and contributors, and I just hooked up with them one day, and they liked what I did, so I've been doing that. And the next thing that we're doing is I'm going to be doing a 6-part comic strip for the magazine with the John Pertwee doctor and Joe Grant.
I'm here with one of the authors at Doctoberfest 2024. Infiltrate is dedicated to a lot of authors, creators of Doctor Who this year.
Mm-hmm.
And you are?
I'm Kathryn Sullivan.
Kathryn Sullivan. And what are your contributions to Doctor Who that brings you here?
Well, I do a number of essays, reviews, short stories for some of the review anthologies, like Outside In. The new one is Outside In Regenerates. I've been in the original Outside In. I've been in Children of Time, The Companions of Doctor Who. I've been in Chicks Dig Time Lords.
Oh, okay.
So I do a lot of review writing.
Very, very cool. And what was your first gig landing you into the universe of Doctor Who as a creator?
Woo, I used to do reviews of the fan videos back in the day.
Oh, okay.
We're talking the really classic ones.
Yeah.
And reviews of some of the fan anthologies.
Did you review the Keith Barnfather stuff from back in the day?
I think I might have,
yeah?
but that's probably how I knew him.
Very, very cool. Very cool. And what are some of the non-Doctor Who stuff?
I write middle grade fantasy and science fiction. Mm-hmm. I do short story collections. My first book, The Crystal Throne, is 2 12-year-olds pulled into Magic World.
Okay.
Which is wizards talking horses.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. And I just got dripped on. Put a clip or something in between that. I was like, wait, what? All right, and
There's
it's not
no
Pepsi.
bird overhead.
It's not Pepsi. What was your original draw to loving Doctor Who and all things Time Lordian, Gallifreyan?
Okay, you're talking way back in the dim races
It can
of
be.
time.
Everybody's got a way back in the day. So.
1968 or so.
Okay.
Chicago area was running a new UHF channel, and
Okay.
they ran Peter Cushing's Doctor Who and the Daleks.
Oh, so that's okay.
Yeah, way back.
That's an
but I didn't
interesting
even realize
entry
it
point.
was related to a show because I
Right.
didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
in
when-
America, that's all you could have. Yeah.
Mhm, yeah. So when I started writing fan stories for fanzines,
Mhm.
one of my editors wanted me to write Doctor Who, and I'm like,
Gotcha.
Doctor Who? There's only that one movie. And
They made
so
a sequel?
Yeah. She sat me down on our way we were going to a convention, and showed me Brain and Morbius.
Oh.
And she knew me because I write about psi powers. And he had a matriarchal society, every bit as powerful as the Time Lords, and Sarah Jane rescues the Doctor.
Yeah.
She got me hooked.
She got you hooked, yeah.
And I basically started hunting down the episodes.
There you go. Were you VHS trading or?
Yep.
Oh,
back in the
very
day,
cool.
Yep. And we basically had a letter writing campaign to our PBS stations because there are 2 in Minnesota.
Okay.
And
what's the hardest you went to get a bootleg of episodes? What's the greatest extent? What was your white whale that I need to get that one?
Oh gosh.
Because that whole era
I was in the
passed
fan
me by.
network, so it was
Okay.
really it was whatever turned up.
Gotcha.
So I couldn't go on request and then I basically was also got involved with the reconstructions. Telesnap reconstructions. So I was one of the Telesnap reconstruction sites.
Like
too.
Loose Cannon and them. Oh,
before
Loose
Cannon.
Oh, okay.
There was
very
a Time
cool.
Snap reconstructions.
Awesome.
So I was one of the dub sites.
There you go.
So I saw a lot of the missing episodes because they had already been reconstructed.
Nifty. Okay. Very, very, very cool. What missing episode would you like back the most of all of them?
Well, the thing is, I'd seen a lot of them, and with the still pictures, you really can't tell. You really can't tell what's going on until you actually see them live. Because I thought any of the world was boring.
Mm-hmm.
Until you saw it, whoa, there was an awful lot of subtlety in his expressions
right.
that you never saw.
No, yeah.
So I mean,
I think
I keep thinking Marco Polo would be boring, but on the other hand, if you actually saw it.
See, I like Marco Polo's one of my favorite telesnap ones because it actually mostly moves along pretty well for me. I think the first 2 episodes are a bit repetitive.
Yeah.
But that one, telesnap-wise, is one of my favorite telesnaps.
Yeah. But actually being able to see what they're doing now with the animated ones, they'd have the color version.
Yeah.
And I mean, the color stills that you've seen from that show.
Oh, yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Very gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I was talking to, who was I talking to earlier? I think it was Larry, where I was like, everybody wants 10th Planet 4, but I would rather power the Daleks 1. I've got the scene I want from 10th Planet 4, but seeing Troughton, his first real go would be amazing.
Yeah.
Having his earliest episode, but that's just me. So.
But I mean, isn't that one already animated? I thought I saw
it was
that.
animated.
Yeah.
Well, they animated it and then they touched it up and re-released it again, which looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, him seeing himself in the mirror as Hartnell.
Yeah.
That was.
I love those anime.
Yeah.
I'm all for, and I'm not a person who's like they need to look like the camera script said. I'm like, go to town. It's a new a new way to introduce
and the little
people.
Easter eggs are having the Masters Wanted posters in the police stations.
It's fun. It's fun,
great.
and then people get all. But that Toy Maker one they just did, just going crazy with imagination. I'm like, that's what you need to do. And then you could bring in new audiences to Classic Who because they like that animation better. And I'm all like, I don't like to be negative around Doctor Who. That's which are fine with me. But yeah, no. Have you been? And you're still good with the new stuff? You still like
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've got the multi-regional DVD player, so I've already seen. Because I don't stream. But yeah. They've been really good.
Very good stuff. Okay, and this is Doctoberfest number 1 for you?
Yep.
What have you thought so far about this tent party?
It's nice. It's spread out enough so that you don't have a lot of crowd that you expect in some of these tents.
Yeah, I was really happy. When they said tents, I was like, and then I saw the tents, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's lit enough. We got the windows behind us. So we're not in the dark.
Very cool. And do you have anywhere on social media and stuff people can keep up with your work?
I'm on KathrynSullivan.com, which also links to my author page on Facebook.
Excellent. Well, good having you here. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Yes, Jamie remarked about the smell as soon as we stepped out of the TARDIS.
Hydrogen telluride.
What? Oh, of course. The worst smell in the world.
Worst smell in any world.
Why didn't I think of that?
Okay. My name is Doug Steinmiller. Graphic designer, illustrator. I volunteer here on occasion at Doctor Who, the Who North America store. I also design a lot of stuff for Who North America, a lot of the signage in the store, the event t-shirt for Doctoberfest. I've done that for a number of years now. I've designed a few Doctor Who posters that are exclusive to the Doctor Who store that are available here as well. And that pretty much sums up my contribution.
All right, I'm here with Nick Krohn. And what brings you to Doctoberfest this year as a guest, Nick?
I am an author of a couple of short stories for the Doctor Who project and also for their anthology, the Sarah Jane Smith Roving Reporter.
Gotcha. So. What do those entail? What are they about? Not with Russell don't like to spoil his stuff, but
I'm not going to spoil Russell's stuff. But the Sarah Jane stuff, it's basically Sarah Jane during the years that she wasn't with the Doctor, getting into mysteries and scrapes with, outer space people or sometimes just regular stuff.
Gotcha. Since I've talked to many people before and stuff, what's your Doctor Who origin story? What brought you to Who?
Okay, so Russell, who you know.
Yeah.
Good friend of mine. When we were in college, he used to want to go and buy the VHS tapes because that's how old we are.
Okay.
And he would be like, "You got to see this. It's Doctor Who." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And he popped it in, and I think it was Inferno.
Oh,
And I did not like it.
That's a weird place to start, but if you're into Who, that's a great story to have. Yeah.
And I didn't get it. And I did not get it for about 20 years. And then I moved to Bloomington, Indiana.
Okay.
And I had no job, no plan, no anything. And he's like, "Well, I'm moving in with my girlfriend. Why don't you just sleep in my apartment for a while and it'll be fine?" And I said, "Okay." And the only thing he had in that apartment was every single episode of Doctor Who then on DVD.
Okay.
and I was depressed, and I wasn't feeling great about myself. And
Right.
I'm like, okay, fine. So I just started watching one, and I was like, this is good. I'm still depressed. I'm gonna read another one, and then the next thing you know, after about a month of job hunting and doing nothing else, I had gotten all the way through, and I was like, okay, well, that's all the new stuff. And then I went all the way back to the first Doctor and kept going, and I was hooked after that.
So it's somewhat therapeutic for you.
It was, and I encountered the Doctors very strangely because of that. So I kind of don't have a doctor. People are like, who's your doctor? I'm like,
all of them.
Because you have to understand that in a month, I watched all of it.
That's true.
Like maybe 2 months at most, but like, so it was all crammed together, and like what I fell in love with was the fact that it changes.
Yeah, it's always evolved, and the people get so angry when it changes, but I'm like, that's why it's still here.
Oh no, I love that, and I also love the idea that, you know, a lot of the time the Doctor is actually pretending to be human, but not doing a great job of it.
Right. Yeah.
And like the change is what appealed to me. So like I love the fact that you can have an absolutely broad comedy Doctor Who. You can have another story that is deadly, deadly serious, and you can even jump between those tones in the same episode. It's amazing.
I've always said what is Doctor Who? It's like almost everything.
Yeah, it's whatever it needs to be.
Yeah. And I always tell people I use this thing to, like, when we talked to we were doing a documentary, and we talked to the Red, White, and Who authors, and asked who their favorite Doctor was at the end of it, and there was like all of them. All authors said that, and I'm like, and I'm like, and I've always told people, I'm like, you need to be nice about things, because your least favorite Doctor is very likely someone's favorite.
Definitely, absolutely, certainly, and somebody you know even.
And if you didn't like it the first time around, go check it out again, because I wasn't like Colin Baker, not my favorite era at first, and then all of a sudden I went back through and I was like, you know what? I was missing something here, and I've really become fond of that era.
Colin Baker is, I loved the continuity of his second season so much.
Yeah.
That, like, you know, it presaged so many things, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
Even Star Trek The Next Generation stole from that idea. So yeah, I love that. And I also feel like the audio stories really have given him that second lease on life that he really needed.
Right, yeah.
So,
and we're so lucky that he never just went away and said,
oh no.
We have Eccleston's come back a bit, but he's still prickly about it.
Well, one of the things that I love about Colin Baker was that he was the very first person who wanted that job
for life,
for what it was.
Yeah.
Not like, you know, Peter Davison took it because it was a job. Like, everyone else basically took it because it was more or less a job. John Pertwee, not as much, but like, he wanted to be the Doctor.
Yeah. I mean, Davison was like, oh, I grew up on Doctor Who, but it wasn't like, this is the role of I always wanted. He thought, you know, I'll stop here, do this, and then he's like, because if you look at the interviews back then, he's like, I think I'll always be remembered for Tristan.
Yeah.
From all things creatures created small. It's like, no, man. And a lot of great actors from back in the day did one little role in Doctor Who, and that's what they're known for. And they were prestigious people in British television.
Yeah, I mean, the only person who's like that about Peter Davison is my mom.
Oh, okay.
Because I grew up on a farm. She loves farm stuff. She saw that on PBS one time. She's like, I know him. I'm like, oh my God, Mom, you're the only one who's ever done that.
Oh gosh, I did have a woman. I had a Peter Davison shirt on, and at a gas station that. Profiling would have never thought a Doctor Who fan, let alone an early 80s Doctor Who fan, but she was like, I loved him. He was so handsome. He's so handsome. I couldn't stop watching. I was like, oh, okay, well, nice. You meet you meet people everywhere.
Yeah.
So you're also involved with NATF, right?
NATF,
and I've done panels for them virtual panels over the years. But what's your role there?
Well, I'm on the board, but mostly what I do is I teach the audio script writing class for them on Zoom, and it meets, you know, a couple of times a year. We do like a session of 5.
Okay.
And basically, I teach you how to write for audio theater.
Very cool.
That's the other thing that I do. So, yeah, it's fun. It's really challenging, and there's always an odd mix of people that want to get into this medium to tell fictional stories. And it's always exciting for me. I love doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And good work. So Doctoberfest, how many is this for you now that you've been to?
This is the second one.
Second one,
Only
okay.
the second.
Okay.
Because, again, my Doctor Who fandom is intense and concentrated and just the last few years, really. So.
Hey, fair enough. Well, happy to have you aboard.
Yeah, awesome.
So.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
No matter how many times you try, no matter how long you wait, I'll always be in your way, backed up by the best of humanity.
I'm Susan from Make It Geek. I do a lot of different handcrafted jewelry, handcrafted plush toys, and embroidered items. So what I've got here today, I've got a bunch of different jewelry, some watches that do work, hair pieces, embroidered towels, and a jacket. And then I've got my plush toys, so gnomes, sushi cats, baby ood, and of course my dragons.
Okay, I am here with the great Nick Seidler of Zepo
Happy to have
Publishing.
you. Yeah, happy to be here, actually.
And author of Red, White, and Who, one of the many that we'll be talking to today. Thank you for taking time to be here.
Yeah, we're very excited about it,
And Red, White, and Who's like 8 years old now?
It is, actually. Came out in 2016, actually.
2016,
so.
okay. So, wow, you're 10 years.
Yeah,
and still out celebrating it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's a very unique book. I think, you know, especially for American Doctor Who fans.
Right.
One of the reasons we wrote the book, as we came up on the 50th anniversary of the show, we were thinking that, like, there needed to be a book about the history of Doctor Who in the United States.
Yeah.
And so that was really kind of what we wanted to do. We had a number of people on board, like Sean Lyon and Arnold Blumberg, as well as the final authors who are part of the project.
Right.
And we gained and lost some people as we went, but everybody was contributing and being a part of that. And we really wanted to write a history about Doctor Who and the experience in the United States.
And how many years did that take to culminate, get everybody together? How many drafts?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will tell you that from when we first came up with the idea to when the book finally came out was 10 years.
Okay.
So we actually researched for 10 years.
Wow.
Wrote, had regular meetings, got together, went to conventions.
There were like 4 different doctors in that time on the show.
Yeah, that's actually true. I never thought of that. So yeah,
wow,
absolutely.
So how, like, what was your spot in writing the book? What was your source of research that you used a lot most?
You know, the reality was we had to split up some of the work that we did, and each of us kind of wrote about our own area. Generally, we all participated in the writing of kind of like the main part of the book, but when it came to like actually doing the research and doing some of the updates, I ended up covering games in the book. So like the games section was mostly written by me. The comics section was mostly written by me, and then also the section on like fanzines and fan like connected publications here in the United States was me and also Jennifer Adams Kelly, who worked on the fanzine stuff along with me. So one of the other authors.
Gotcha. That's crazy, excellent and stuff. And it's paying. I mean, you're Keith Barnfather's here, and I was part of a production. We interviewed you and some of the others for a documentary about the United States tour, which that's covered in the book, right?
Yeah, the Who USA tour. Yeah, it's covered in the book. Even since then, we've discovered that there are a couple more stops.
Right.
One of the things that we tried to put in there in one of the appendices is all the different stops that the Who USA tour took.
Gotcha.
And since then, we've discovered that there's a couple missing, but for the most part, it was pretty comprehensive. So, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty excellent.
Yeah.
And then, so moving forward, you have new printed material to talk about.
I do, actually.
So
I'm going to show this off to your viewers here.
Yes.
So, How to Celebrate Your Fandom. And it's a book that 3 of the authors from Red, White, and Who participated in, as well as Libby Shea, who was a 4th person. Libby actually helped do some of the research on Red, White, and Who. And then she joined us as one of the primary authors of How to Celebrate Your Fandom. And if it's okay with you, I'll talk about that for a second.
I would love to hear
So
about it.
How to Celebrate Your Fandom. It's a book that covers over 50 different ways that you can celebrate your fandom if you're a fan of anything, right? So that could be of science fiction films, of Doctor Who, of I know you obviously in your podcast love movies, so like you'd be a fan of that. It could be of sports. It could be of any hobby. It could be a rodeo. It could be of cross stitch or whatever. And it's 50 things that you can do to get involved in your fandom. And then on top of that, there's some extra sections, teaching about fan etiquette, what to do. And then also there's interviews by over 30 fans at the back of the book talking about their passions.
Okay.
And those fans range in age from 5 to 101.
Oh, wow.
So we cover, massively cover, a lot of different fandoms and a lot of different people.
Who's the 101 person?
Yeah, so that was George Halala, actually, who we got, who's actually my godfather.
Oh, all right.
So he just turned 101 this year, and so we were like, we need to include you in this book that we're doing.
Gotcha.
And it was kind of actually very fun to include him. So
this is a necessary thing to have because fandoms are all, and when we interviewed the lot of you for the documentary, one way I quickly fell in love with all of you is we kind of just bonus asked you, who's your favorite Doctor and why, and all of you said all of them.
Right.
And I was like, thank you. And I would say, and I tell people too, I'm like, someone's your least favorite Doctor or whatever you don't like is probably someone's favorite. So
of course, yeah.
Chill out, and I always say, go back to that again and see if you feel the same way as you did the first time. Because sometimes new stuff, interesting stuff, punches you in the face, and you got to shake it off and go, okay. And that's kind of me, like the Colin Baker era, which I am very fond of now. At first, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
But that's you going, I don't know how to feel about this. That's different from I don't like this.
Right, exactly.
So, and you guys all seem to spread positivity, and it's coming out in this form of this book.
Yeah, we're actually really proud of the book. One of the things that we were trying to do with that, first of all, it was all Doctor Who fans that worked on it, right? So all of us were.
Right, yeah.
So our fandom actually is what brought us together to write a book about fandoms.
Gotcha.
Even though we also have other interests. And one of the things that we always try to tell people is whether you like Doctor Who, we're also fans of movies. I'm a big fan of The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, or Alien and Aliens, right? And other science fiction movies like that are of huge interest to me. You don't have to be a fan of only one thing.
Right.
You can like a lot of things. You can also like anime, and you can also like. I love going to watch the ballet. I think that's cool.
Excellent.
You know what I mean?
Awesome. Yeah.
And I like going to see movies when they come out, and I also love disc golfing, right? And so you can have a lot of different passions.
Yeah.
You don't have to only have one, right? You can be one single-minded, so to speak.
I have a big slate of variety. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, but my podcast is very on my movie side of things. I've brought in Who stuff quite a bit there, but I like to spread out and showcase a lot of things, even though I'm very dedicated to Doctor Who and things like that.
Sure.
But yeah, no, and there's different, and if you go through fandoms, you do notice a through line of certain way people behave. Especially if you go on forums and stuff like that, right? So
absolutely.
So
and a lot of the times we all like different things within a fandom too, right? One of our co-authors, Rob Warnock, is really into music.
Yeah.
And so he especially with Doctor Who, he loves the radiophonic workshop. He loves the composers, the people that do the music.
Yeah.
And that's something that he has a passion for and that he kind of zones in on. But I like the fictional worlds more, right?
Right,
and
yeah.
then other people might like certain actors or actresses,
Yeah.
right? And everybody finds that thing that they like even within a particular fandom.
Right,
So,
exactly. Yeah, I love that. And where can people order the book at if they're
Sure,
because they're not
absolutely.
here if they're
absolutely.
watching this?
So let me tell you about
All right,
it.
yeah.
This is the first book on my own imprint, Zepo Publishing, and Zepo is one piece, so ZEPO publishing.com. You can go there, and in the book section, you can find all of the different places that you can find the book. I always encourage people to get the book from our website because that helps the authors the most. But it's also available at BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, a number of different bookstores. Powell's.com, I think, has it. A lot of places are carrying it, which we're really happy about.
Great.
But to help the authors best, always go to one of the book signings if you can. Today we're at Doctoberfest here in Camby, Indiana. It's amazing. It's fun. There's people here doing
This
talks.
is your first one, right?
This is actually my third.
Third,
so,
okay,
absolutely. But it's always an event I love. And I just want to encourage people that if you know a book signing is happening in your area, go get the book there. You get a chance to meet the authors. They'll sign the book for you and stuff like that. But if you can't, if you're just not there, go there and look online. We have the book in soft cover. We have it in hardcover, and there's even an ebook version of it in PDF.
Gotcha.
So if you want to pick it up, you can. So
Gotcha.
yeah, absolutely.
And you're working on an upcoming book that's Doctor Who focused.
It is, and actually, I want to encourage any of your fans out there, right? People who are involved, if they want to be involved in it, what we're doing is we're writing a book that's called Fantastic. It's a celebration of Doctor Who fans who are discovering the program. And if you want to, you can email Zepo Publishing at gmail.com. And we'll send you the questions. There's 4 questions that we're answering a whole bunch of fans. We want to get about 150 to respond. And we're asking questions like, what was the first episode of Doctor Who you ever saw?
Yep.
How did you become a fan? Do you have a favorite fan moment? And if you were going to start somebody on the show, question 4, which episode would you start them with, or which story, right? So.
And I was very appreciative that you reached out to me to contribute to that.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. I totally want that. Yeah.
My word vomit put into a book. Awesome. Thank you so much. Like, I'm very appreciative.
And honestly, we want to include the other people who want to do that.
Right.
So I'm looking at you out there.
There you
we
go.
want you to be a part of the book in all seriousness. And please, respond. And we're trying to figure that out. And we already have an idea for follow-on Doctor Who book in the same vein, where we get opinions of the fans themselves, because what we've discovered is fans aren't really of all the books that Doctor Who books have come out, we really haven't been documenting the fan experience as good as we could, and so that's something that we're kind of focusing on, and we want to actually put it down. Almost every Doctor Who fan asks one another, what's the first episode you ever saw? But I don't know of any place that's documented, so we took that on as a book.
And who has a weird experience of fans affecting the show positively, or keeping it alive, or having new angles to things unlike other fandoms I've seen, the fan experience is warranted as being documented or showcasing things, because there's always those old the old convention things that they show on the Blu-rays, and what was going on in the downtime, or when somebody wasn't on the show, or this USA tour, that's stuff that really is, to me at least, interesting in the part of the history of the show as well.
Absolutely. And another thing that I particularly like about Doctor Who, and again, we're here celebrating Doctor Who, is just that so many people experience it different. My closest friends are all Doctor Who fans, right? I know families that were brought together because they watched the series, right? I know that there's people who discovered it when they were in college, and then their friends were all about it, right? Or high school even, right?
Yeah.
Or joined a fan club or whatever. And to me, that's kind of the fun, and Doctor Who is one of those very positive, interactive, pieces, parts of media that it is positive all around, and I think is just worth celebrating. And it's
definitely. I'm glad that forever I felt like I was the only person I knew who watched that show.
I know.
And even the
feel like that sometimes.
I lived in Los Angeles telling people about it, no one would watch it, and then came back here, and then I slowly started meeting people to allow me to come out of my shell and just full on I love the show. Right. Everybody knows, but for me, it was just a show I watched, and nobody else. But now I got my kids watch it, and so I was they'll at least.
That's
I'll get
amazing,
them on
right?
It.
They're excited
I'll
about
get them
it.
on
Right?
it, and then just meeting, going to conventions, and slowly realizing I have others. It's not just this niche thing. And being in Indiana, I'm nobody's gonna like Doctor Who in India. Oh, we have a shop.
Yep.
So. Yeah. It's pretty exciting. So I appreciate this. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for inviting me onto your podcast and stuff.
Awesome.
I have been watching it, and I like it. And
thank you.
To be on it is an honor, and I want to let you know, thank you. Keep going.
Mutual.
Because I like the things that you're doing.
All right. Thank you.
I'm having a lot of fun with that. I really like the Harry Potter 20 Years Later.
Okay.
Was a great. If you guys haven't watched that one, make sure you watch it. There's some great content that Brand's putting out that I think is brilliant. Right. So
well, thank you so much.
Course,
all right, but I'm here to celebrate you. So.
Okay. No problem.
There we go.
Mutual Admiration Society. I love it. Okay.
Thank you. All right. All righty. I am with the Stephen Warren Hill, another author of Red, White, and Who. That's here at Doctoberfest. And Stephen, what were you? I know everybody had assignments for Red, White, and Who to do. What was your angle for it in the production of the book?
Two things. I was basically the project manager.
Okay.
So I kept everybody sort of on target, and helped out with advice and tweaking things as they go along. Held the meetings. We had meetings every week, virtual meetings online. And I did I did almost all of the writing for the first, 7 or 8 chapters. But then when we got into the more topic-oriented chapters, then other people took okay, I'm going to take that topic. I'm going to take that topic.
Okay.
And we did that. And then the other thing was just sort of making sure that we were staying on target. And my goal was essentially, I want to get, if it had anything to do with Doctor Who in the United States, I want to include it.
Right.
No matter how small or trivial it seemed, I wanted to make sure everything got in.
Gotcha. Was there stuff that after it published, they were like,
Well, Doctor Who continues, so yeah.
Right,
there's
yeah, okay, yeah.
Plenty of things have come up, and we've tried to sort of.
Well, that's for Red, White, and 2.
Yeah, well, that's.
There you go, yeah.
We've said that maybe
All right,
you never
all
know
right.
if it might happen.
Very, very cool. What was something, like, one of the more important things that you learned that you didn't know going in the book that you've taken with you the most, that are like, holy, or that somebody writing with you found?
Our friend Larry VanMersbergen would also agree with me on this. I found when I was researching publications that a small press publisher, republisher really, called Amerion, but also known as Aeonian Press, had done hardcover re-releases of some of the Doctor Who books.
Oh, okay.
And at the time we were working on the book, prior to it, I had never heard of them.
Okay.
I think I found one or two of them and then realized I had to do all this research and find out how they came about and everything. I eventually talked to the publisher.
Okay.
And he was... I think he passed away like a year later after we talked to him.
Oh wow, you got it right in.
Yeah. He was.
buzzer,
He
okay.
told me right when I talked to him. He said, "I'm not in good health."
Okay.
But he was thrilled to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because he loved Doctor Who. But so to discover these books existed and were not particularly rare at the time, but they are now. They've kind of vanished from eBay and every other place, so they're really hard to find now. But it was interesting to put that story together out of nowhere, and I'd never heard of anything of their existence before.
That's very cool. How did it feel that this has been like almost 10 years now since the book came out, that still going in celebration, and now being part of Keith Barnfather's documentary to talk, using your knowledge to talk about the USA tour because of contributions to
my goal was, quite honestly, I would have loved to have seen this book on library shelves all over the place, because it's really a reference.
It's an
book.
archive. It's
But
great. Yeah.
It can be used as a reference book. It can sit on a library shelf and say, I need to research this particular topic, but we also wanted it to be an entertaining read.
Right.
So that was another one of our goals, make sure that it wasn't dry, wasn't too dry,
right,
and you could actually read it and enjoy it. And also that it told a story from beginning to end, which we made sure that it did that.
Gotcha.
And also that it would be of equal interest to UK readers as American readers, because they don't really know what went on here, and we know more about it than they do. But I think that we laid out a really fascinating story that they would be really interested to read. We haven't sold a lot of copies in the UK because shipping costs are so high.
Yeah.
And it's a heavy book. It's a
As a
very, very thick,
it's
gigantic,
an archival
heavy book.
piece of history.
So,
have they ever talked to you with I know the collection sets, one of my favorite things to get. Have they ever talked to you about contributing information or interviews or stuff to that, showcasing the Who?
No, I
Treasures of
haven't
America?
done anything like that, but I did. The closest was Doctor Who magazine.
Gotcha.
Had me write a couple of articles over the years for them on specific American-oriented topics.
Because I think the story in America with pledge drives, things like that's like kind of one of the funnier things we have here that's interesting. And I've always said one of my favorite things on those discs is the trails and continuities, because it gives me a chance to feel like a person in the UK watching it, for the know how it was presented. And I think it'd be interesting for the UK to see the same. We don't have to load up all the releases with all the American stuff, but I think how it was presented in other countries is very interesting, finding us missing episodes because of it as well.
Yeah, so. I remember a lot of, a certain number of UK fans were, I don't know if upset is really the right, jealous maybe is a good word, of American fans getting Doctor Who where they have to pay a license fee, and we don't have to pay anything. And yet they didn't really understand that historically we have paid for
Right.
Doctor Who in many ways.
Yeah. Well, they're
and
upset
pledge
now.
drive's one way.
They're upset now. We get it. Technically, we all get it at the same time, but it's a lot more comfortable for us to watch as it drops than them. So, and you're also part of the new book from Zepo Publishing.
Yeah, How to Celebrate Your Fandom.
And what was your contributions there?
I hope Nick has told this story, but we conceived this book at the Gallifrey Convention earlier this year, 2024.
Okay.
And we sort of worked out the concept, but the next step was coming up with what the ideas were for each particular celebration, and it's kind of like a workbook. It's almost like a checklist of things that you can do, and it's oriented towards young fans, but it's certainly readable and usable by. We have interviews from what I think he says 7 years old to
5 to 101.
There we go.
101. That's the appropriate way to say it.
So I helped. I was there when we worked out the list. We came up with a list of. I can't remember, maybe 100 things.
Okay.
And then we whittled them down from there, which are the best ones, which are too similar to each other.
Tighten it up.
Yeah, right.
And you have a unique perspective on this, and probably something being one of the head honchos and moderators at Gallifrey Base, you probably see the worst of things, too, at times. And I know people brag, like, I use the site. I think it's a good place for people to come together, resources, learn information, stuff like that. But I do see things. I have the ability. I can I'll just scroll on by.
Yeah.
But there are some things that go on. So does that affect your desire to get something like this out and try to craft the way people look at fandom?
That's a good question. I think one of the best things is that it has really amped up my positivity and encouraging others to be as positive as they can all the time. And I hate gatekeepers, and just the whole concept of gatekeeping is terrible.
Right.
And let fans celebrate or be fans however they choose to be. And the more I promote that idea, either through the forum, and I try to be as easygoing as I can, but people sometimes think I'm a jerk. But
I will say,
administrators.
I've been on many forums. That's one of the best regulated forums around. Like, stuff goes away, stuff gets reconstructed, and people are given warnings, things like that. And every thread you go into is, if you catch it you can catch it at the right time where it goes off the rails before it gets fixed, but every thread's on topic where it needs to be, and it's pretty understanding. Like, it's pretty well regulated there. So compared to a lot of other fan things, and the message board forum, there's a lot of them you go there, they're not as populated as they used to be, and the moderators don't even care anymore because it gets attention. So our traffic's up, so don't block it, let it go, but not Gallifrey Base.
It does get me down to hear people, let's say on social media, somebody mentions Gallifrey Base and they get responses say, that place is a cesspit.
Oh, yeah.
How do you?
No.
And no, it's not.
It's not.
What? Are you going by hearsay? Where did you hear that? 10 years ago? 20 years ago? What? No, it's moderated for one thing.
Right, yeah.
Which is, instantly better than a lot of other places. So it does get me. It gets me.
It's a good place for me and my Yankee homies to go check where our shipping stuff is for our Blu-rays and stuff. Be like, well, mine's in Cincinnati, so is mine. I'm like, okay, where you live? Utah. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get mine before you.
Yeah.
but things like that. It is like I've learned so much about something I knew a lot about already by just having the other angles and things like that, and it's a good place. But that's definitely, some of those people could read that and refresh. But and I think with fandom's different to everybody. Like, if you just watch Doctor Who when it's on and turn it off, don't think about it till next week, season's over, okay, and you just keep watching it, but you call yourself a fan, you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you liked it only at one period in your life and you say you're you are.
Yeah.
Like, there's no. Some like it a lot. Some have knowledge. Some don't care to seek knowledge. That's a show I watched and enjoyed. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah. We heard so much from a lot of people saying things like, the fangirls who came for David Tennant, and now David Tennant's not the Doctor anymore, they're going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
So what? They're still Doctor Who fans.
Right, yeah.
And let them be that way.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's
Nothing
cool.
wrong.
And just don't dog anyone else's era, and very much so. I focus on, and you're a big film buff too. That's
am.
where, and I talk a lot of film, and we talk about how certain movies ignite such passionate discourse, I'll call it, on the internet, that if you look, the basic people, which is most of the people, not calling it basic, but if you check like Cinema Score and things like that, if you look at the box office and then Cinema Score, be like, yeah, most people like this. You can't go on the internet saying, oh, but there's also real life, which if you go to conventions, if you go to things and you meet people, you're like, oh, this is much more positive experience than you don't see those.
Yes.
They don't go out typically that you see, or they are a chameleon and don't showcase, or maybe they realize maybe I shouldn't be so tough on something.
Yeah.
So if because you run Chicago TARDIS, and do you see a lot of that too? Does that help shape, like, this is more positive than the social medias want to?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I've tried to do over the years with Chicago TARDIS specifically is involve the young fans, and it's a drum I keep beating all the time, because the old fans aren't going to be around forever. Right. We need the young fans. We don't want to turn them away. We want them to be just as involved as we are in the conventions and in the ways we celebrate Doctor Who.
Yep.
We want them to be enthusiastic and engaged.
It's not still here because we never got young fans.
Right.
And I was that young fan at one point too. And everybody, and it changed. I love that it's never the same, and stuff like that. And it's always nice to have like little callbacks and stuff once in a while, but we can't live off just.
Exactly.
You need to. And the thing I love, I think why Doctor Who is one of my favorite things in the world when it comes to things is it's not. It has a canon, but it's not afraid to flick it once in a while to help the story and stuff. And I've always been I'm a fan of creators and stuff. And if it hurts, if they need to bend to do something that they want, it's more interesting than had they go for it. Yeah. With movie series, with TV, and that's what I like about Who. It's flimsy. Like, oh, they messed with. I'm like, go back to the 70s. They were complaining the same way.
Right.
Like I like looking up archived reviews or fans' thoughts. Did you? Any of that help influence that book of like old, like thoughts from yesteryear that might have crept in, or is it more focused on today's climate since
the
it's
Celebrate
younger?
Your Fandom is really kind of more focused on today. But I do have. I was looking through Red, White, and Who just last night, and we finished the narrative portion right before the appendices. With a review from a newspaper from the 70s that basically the review ends with the reviewer saying, it'll never attract a cult audience.
Did more than that. Very cool. So before we go off, I want 10 recent, classic film recommendations from Stephen Warren Hill.
Oh my gosh.
Because I love, like, you're like, you usually post your watch list.
That's true.
Recent watch list and stuff. And 10 like recent ones that people should check out.
My favorite movie is Brighton Rock from 1947. And I came to it, admittedly, because William Hartnell is in it.
Okay.
So that was why I sought it out for the first time to see it years ago.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with it. And there's so much going on in that movie, and I love like every frame I could spend and analyze it.
Okay.
My two favorite directors are John Carpenter.
We share that.
And Andrei Tarkovsky.
Oh, he's great.
Which that's kind of chalk and cheese, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not similar at all.
Right.
And Tarkovsky's movies, you have to really slow yourself down to enjoy them. And they're highly philosophical, and he was all about. He even had a book called Sculpting in Time.
His camera work is.
Oh yeah. And everything sort of if a movie makes me think. And keep thinking about it, I will call that movie a favorite.
Okay.
Everything that John Carpenter ever did, I particularly love old movies.
Yep.
So I do watch just as many movies from 30s as I do from the 90s, or 40s as I do from the 2000s.
Yeah, all era. And when I was raising my kids, I was making sure to watch things from all eras with all different, especially genre stuff with different effects. Like granted, they got to watch classic Doctor Who, so they're used to puppets and guys in suits and stuff like that. But just so they can see a variety, and they're never bothered by anything old, new,
that's
whatever.
good.
Because I'm like, you get a variety of things. Hello. You what? You do? Oh, well, thank you.
Awesome.
I'll talk to you in a little bit if you want. Or we can say hi or something. Are you going to be here for a bit? Oh, thank you. Cool. All right. Cool. So, all right, yeah, Carpenter, though, he's one of my favorites that I tend to like James Wan Lee Winnell for, because he makes like $5 look like 100 million. And that's the thing with Carpenter. He was the king of like making a like good B movie, like A-level B movie and stuff like that, because big Carpenter fan. But Halloween's my favorite movie of all time. So I've been with a guy for, and I'm weird, though, because my second favorite is Escape from New York, then The Thing.
Okay.
Something about Escape from New York, maybe it's been because I've been with me so long, but yeah, so he's and even his, so with directors like that, even their more like weaker films are still interesting because they have such and Tarkovsky, man. Oh, that guy, like, Solaris to me is one of the most haunting movies I've ever seen. Like, gets in your head. And, like, all his movies kind of have that. Mirror, that's another one I like a lot. But, yeah, he's great. Do you have, like, the Criterion Blu-rays and stuff for all that?
Everything that I can get.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Good stuff. I said 10. That's a lot to... How about
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. So where can people keep up with you? And
I'm on Facebook, Stephen W. Hill. I just started a Facebook group for movie title screens. Like
I think I followed it. Yes.
Because I'm a fan of title screen art and the design of the.
I love opening credit art to begin with. Yeah, that's a long. They put it in the post credits now a lot of the time, but
right. Yeah. Well, that we could have an argument about.
Hey, the new Crow movie, not good, but it did go for it for opening credits.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, that's like the best part of the movie.
Awesome. Okay. Well.
Not a good movie, but the opening credits they went hard. So it's very James Bondy kind of thing. So I'm like, I didn't expect that. I was like, oh, okay. And then the movie did not live up to the opening credits. But hey, kudos. Say something nice. That's what I did.
There you go. I'm also a DJ, and I'm on Twitter as DJ Steve Hill 950.
All right.
And 950 is the club I used to work at in the 90s in Chicago. So.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to have you here. Always good to see you again. We've got Red, White, and Who. Yep. And then, of course, the brand new one dropping today.
Yes.
Right? Today's his release day.
How
to Celebrate Your Fandom. All right. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thank you.
I want to welcome Libby Shea over here to the Brandon Peters Show.
Hello.
And you are a contributor to the Zepo Publishing debut book, How to Celebrate Your Fandom, if you want to hold that up. And you did some research work on Red, White, and Who a bit?
Yeah, a little bit.
I was told through other interviews, too.
Yep.
So how did your relationship start to lead to How to Celebrate Your Fandom?
So, do you want all the way back?
You tell me.
Okay. So... I know you already talked with Nick Seidler earlier. Mm-hmm. He was a professor at MSOE when I was a student.
Gotcha.
And that's how I met him. And he dragged us into the world of Doctor Who, the world of gaming, Chicago TARDIS. He got us into a lot of the stuff that we're into.
Gotcha.
Separately, I had always been an anime fan. My brother and I had watched anime when we were young.
Okay.
And just a culmination of college, being able to find myself and figure out what I enjoy, and the friendships that I made along the way kind of culminated in what this book is, of how do we celebrate our fandoms, how do we not gatekeep as other fans, how do we encourage others to be their most authentic selves.
Gotcha. When he dragged you to Doctor Who, what clicked with you that you're still with it and contributing things like being at Doctoberfest?
Yeah, so we started off with the Ninth Doctor, started off with Rose. And I loved Rose as a character, loved Ninth Doctor as a character.
Gotcha.
And it became a weekly Friday night thing that me and my, at the time, boyfriend, now husband,
were
watching Doctor Who with Nick. Mm-hmm. And we just continued watching. and it's been that way ever since.
Did you go back and check out the classic stuff, or you're just like, I'm cool with the new stuff?
So we did go back a little bit. We're still trying to make our way forward.
The
but
pilgrimage, as they call it.
Yes. So we started again with the Fifth Doctor and went forward. And actually, I really love the Fifth Doctor.
Gotcha.
I love Tegan so much.
Tegan,
one of my favorite companions.
That was when I was born. He was the Doctor.
Okay.
And he actually wound up being the first one I discovered randomly flipping to, it's in your next book, actually.
Yeah.
By the way, my story is finding Madron Undead, which I just recently memory clicked that's what the story. I always knew it was Davison, but for some reason the new Blu-ray set, it finally clicked like that was one of these episodes was your first. But so I like that 80s Who, because I feel like 80s Who finally getting due with things like that. So anime.
Yeah.
Never my strong suit, but I do PopCon, where that's a huge. Have you ever been to PopCon?
I have not.
Oh, you'd love it. It's a lot of voice actors and cosplay and stuff like that. So what are the type of things in the anime field that you feel like people should know about with how to celebrate your fandom, and what are some of the negative things that need to be steered toward a two-part question? Sorry.
I guess the biggest thing with anime is recognizing that it's not cartoons. It's not necessarily aimed at kids. There's a lot of anime out there that you definitely need to pay attention as to what you're getting into.
Right.
And there's a lot of anime out there that, as someone who may struggle with mental health, needs to be aware that what your limits are. You need to know what you're getting into when you're watching.
Yeah.
Like for me, I can't watch Attack on Titan.
Gotcha.
I like the series. I started watching it in college, but could not continue.
Gotcha.
But on the other hand, I watched Naruto all the way through.
Okay.
Ended up reading it to finish it off.
Oh, wow.
Because they were not going fast enough for my love of the series.
Fair enough.
But absolutely love that series. That's one of the big ones that I kind of stuck with. My brother and I, when we started watching anime really young, was like Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, a lot of like those Toonami-esque animes that we have over here in the States. And then just branching out from there.
Gotcha. Yeah, you mentioned something interesting, the mental health with approaching anime, because as fans of things and stuff, a lot of us have an obsessive compulsive nature, but also a completionist nature.
Yes.
And my bud Chris Johnson from the Normies, if you're watching, hello. He's like my anime like security man, because I try to add it to my watching as regular as I can, because it's such a loose spot. But I'm building to where I want your opinion or thoughts on, because he's like, anime fans are crazy. They'll tell you to watch, forget what the one is, and he's like, One Piece.
Yep.
And that's like 1 billion episodes. And if you've got a compulsive nature,
you're never gonna end.
That might climbing through that might affect your life greatly. So
yes, very much so.
Is that something you've come across with meeting other fans, or
For me, I know I kind of think of like my individual interests as almost like black holes.
Yeah.
That when I finish one, now space becomes available for me to go into something else.
Right.
And at that point, I have to figure out like if what I get into next is going to take up a large portion of my life, maybe that one stays shelved, versus like, doing something small that only has one season, and I know it's not going to continue because it's 10 years old.
Yeah.
Like, maybe doing that is now the time to do that.
Gotcha. Yeah, and there's so much to get through, and you want to rewatch stuff you've seen before too, right? That's the problem I have with being a film person. Always trying to check out new films, but wanting to go back to my old ones. And October get busy. Is there any events and stuff you do through a year that keeps you so busy, but you just want to watch your comfort stuff, or?
Not necessarily. So like as far as events goes, right? Really love going to Gen Con. That's a staple for me every year.
Gotcha.
I help out with Chicago TARDIS. I'm the lead of the game room.
Okay.
So we're always looking for new games that we can create as fans. I don't know if anyone else has talked to you about Chicago TARDIS game room, the way that we run it.
Run with it.
So we have all custom-made, fan-made Doctor Who games in this room.
That's very cool.
There's probably over 20 at this point.
Okay.
And every year we try to come up with at least one new one. So we're actively trying to figure out what we want to do this year. And a lot of the times we'll base it on the guests that we have coming. So I know this year we've got the Fugitive Doctor coming to Chicago.
Yeah, Joe Martin, yeah.
Yep, Joe Martin. So we're trying to think of ideas centered around her doctor.
Very
of like,
cool.
what can we do?
Yeah.
One of our favorite games, and probably the most famous of the Chicago TARDIS gaming area, is the Rory Adventure game.
Okay.
This started before I joined Chicago TARDIS Gaming, but Nick and some others created basically Rory's timeline, and you traverse Rory's timeline.
Yeah.
And the goal is to get through with the least amount of deaths. Rory dies so many times in his timeline.
Yeah.
It's impossible to skate that.
Well, that's fun.
So when you're competing against other players, it's can you make it, like, can you be the first to the end with the least amount of deaths?
Okay, I see that. Yeah, yeah.
So, and whenever we run it at Chicago TARDIS, we have it to where, we have it to where it becomes a competition throughout the weekend of, like, highest number of deaths. So do you want to try and win the game, or do you want to try and win the weekend?
Gotcha.
So, but
very cool.
A couple of years ago, we actually had Arthur Darvill come and play the Rory Adventure game.
How far did he go?
He made it through the game. It was great.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun to watch him play it. He had a great time doing it.
He's like, you should copyright that. Get it going. Very cool. Where do you want to take your writing next? Like, if you were blank slate, allowed to do whatever, what's the book you would write?
So I'm actually working with Nick on another project.
Okay.
I am huge in the role-playing games.
Okay.
He runs a campaign that I started off running, or at least gaming in, and I've since spun off my own campaign.
Okay.
And it's all based on the Doctor Who facet rules originally.
Okay.
We've homebrewed it more, and I homebrewed his homebrew. So
all right.
There's layers here, but I love game mastering.
Okay.
I love role playing. I've played some D&D, but I'm not a huge D&D player.
There you go.
But I love the systems that we play in. So, but to find source materials, or to find, any form of, like, what's the word? Like, other materials for other systems.
Okay.
It's really hard to find because everyone focuses on 5e and D&D. So Nick and I want to create some more, like, system agnostic kind of, like, material for role players and for game masters.
The good thing is everything's all made up anyway, and
Yep.
you can always change it. So that's very good. Did you ever at Gen Con play True Dungeon? I know that's a
I've
big.
not done True Dungeon.
I had a friend, Jeff Chandler. He was helped doing that stuff. I've never been to Gen Con. It's typically not my wheel. I'll go one day, but it's typically not my. They're like, podcast, you gonna do stuff there? I'm like, no. I'm not. I like to play board games. It's not a section of my fandom. I'd love to play more board games. I play, like, Horrified with my kids now. We play that, and I've done Catan a couple times. I know that's a beginner one. That's where I'm at. And then I've got some that sit in the plastic still because of just the time.
Same.
So
I have a whole game shelf of games that I've got at Gen Con that I've not been able to crack open yet.
I have got a large collection of old Trivial Pursuit games because at my live show at PopCon, me and Jessica Osman, we play a vintage Trivial Pursuit with people with the idea, hoping that the answer's dated, but you have to answer at the dated answer. So we at Goodwill's her and I have amassed, like, way more old Trivial Pursuit games than I need. But that's the one I break out the most because I do live shows. But very cool, very cool. Where can people keep up with everything you got going on, aside from How to Celebrate Your Fandom, which is now available?
Yep, it is available. Definitely check out Zepo Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm probably primarily going to be kind of publishing works through. And, I mean, come find me at Gen Con if you want to come in any of the role-playing games. I do run a couple of games throughout the weekend.
Excellent.
It's a lot of fun. And then come visit us at Chicago TARDIS.
Hello, I'm Rob Warnock.
They're the authors of Red, White, and Who. Of course, what was... so I'm asking, like, because I know it was segmented to different people for assignments. What was your contributions?
The first thing I did was mostly going through fan videos.
Oh, wow.
So I watched pretty much every fan video we could find that had been made since they started. And
okay,
the group that some of us were in the Federation, as far as we can tell, we were the first group to do a fan video in the U.S.
Okay.
And I, of course, had access to those, but it was hard finding copies of a lot of the older ones. And
Gotcha.
I'm sure there are some that we never were able to locate.
Was Larry in them as the fifth? I know he played the Fifth Doctor in something. He's told me that before, but
I'm pretty sure I did watch one that he was in. It's been a while ago now, so I don't remember.
I won't ask you to review his performance, but
well, if I reviewed his performance, I'd have to review mine too, and he was probably better than I was.
Gotcha. And so you're also part of the Zepo Publishing with the fandom book, correct?
Correct.
So what approach did you take to that?
We kind of came up with it just hanging out at Gallifrey in LA last year, and we started thinking about it, and then we all just started throwing out ideas of like what kind of things would be good for people to be able to do that would get them more into whatever specific fandom they liked.
Gotcha. And like the group of you guys I like is like there's just this positive vibe. Like how have you guys had that all together and keep it going like that? I know when in times when things people can just drop off negative at a drop of a hat. Like how does
I can't say that doesn't happen sometimes.
Gotcha.
But if we're here or doing Chicago Tars,
right?
It's always fun. You'll have little things that go wrong or disagreements, but at the end of the day, it's always fun, and that's kind of what we wanted to do with How to Celebrate Your Fandom. Just find out what you like, have fun with it. Don't let other people tell you what you can like or what's okay to like, or you can only like it this certain way, or if you're a Doctor Who fan and you don't like a specific Doctor, then you're not really a fan.
Well, I always say like your least favorite Doctor is someone's favorite. So there is people that like it speaks to them differently. Not everything's made directly for you.
And I know, like with Doctor Who, there are always those lists of who's the best Doctor. And I know Colin Baker usually ends up near the bottom of the list.
Right.
But I know two people who the Sixth Doctor is their favorite Doctor. So it's like you said, someone's least favorite Doctor is
I've come a long way around on Colin. Like I'm fascinated with that era now. Like his performance, everything else, it just stands out in a way that it hit me in the face the first time. Going back and studying it later on, I've really come to adore it more than ever before. Whereas if you'd asked me the first time I went through it, probably not as positive. But
and it's always nice, especially when the Blu-ray sets come out. You can go back and rewatch stuff, even things I've seen.
Have you ever appeared on any of those or contributed to the DVDs or anything?
I'm in the Blu-ray for. There's a JNT documentary. I think that's on the 18th season.
It was on season 26, I think. The Showman.
No, it's one that's.
Is it archival and they put it? Or?
Okay. It's a clip of me and a bunch of other people waiting in line for the. Well, now you'd call it the masquerade. At that point, it was a costume contest.
Oh, okay.
I'm in it for about 3 seconds.
Okay.
And it's weird because Steve got credited for helping out.
Okay.
And I just assumed maybe they asked him which clip should we use from this convention.
Oh.
Because it's about 3 seconds of maybe a 30-second clip. So I thought, this can't be coincidence that I'm in this clip. But he said, no, I didn't have anything to do with it.
They picked the right 3 seconds.
So I just happened to be in that 3 seconds. So I always say I'm canonical now because I'm on one of the Blu-rays.
There you go. Well, and now,
really.
I mean, you're going to be part of Real Time Pictures with the USA tour.
Yeah.
How do you feel about getting called up for that? Was that okay? Or
It was fun. I just feel bad because I didn't have as much knowledge about it as a lot of other people.
But you had some knowledge, which is that there was basically scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to find. I mean, they're still hoping somebody pops up that is able to interview for it, which it's supposed to come out in February.
And there are a lot of other fan-related things I remember from that time, but that one, I don't know as well as some of the other things. So.
Yeah, that one, going through as someone who didn't experience it, only knew referentially of it, hearing those stories from like you and everybody else was like painting this picture of like, what, this sounds like it sounds like a disaster, it sounds like, or it sounds good. It was all over the map. Like,
I think it was maybe a little of both. I think I mentioned this when we talked about it before. You know, we're from Chicago, so the stop there was not a big deal because we had conventions.
Yeah.
Big conventions in Chicago, but if you lived out, you know, somewhere in the middle of Nebraska, say, and the trailer showed up with all this Doctor Who related stuff, it was probably the best thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as a kid, just the sight of, oh, they're recognizing something I enjoy that I didn't know a lot of people did.
Yeah.
That's huge. Speaking of convention stuff, you are a part of Chicago TARDIS, and you do the music for it, correct?
Yeah, I've been doing music now, I think, for the past 12 years.
Okay.
And I basically just record maybe 9 or 10 songs and then do a different version of the Doctor Who theme every year.
Gotcha.
Which is getting tricky after this many years because it's hard to come up with something different each year.
Is there like an angle you've taken on some years? Like, I want them all to go sound like this, or do you just kind of, here's a bunch of themes? Like, what's your approach?
A lot of years, because Nick and I work on it together a lot, but usually, maybe most of the time, I'll start it out by myself or kind of have an idea. But usually, the idea that we come up with is not how it ends up being.
Gotcha.
So, for the 50th and 60th, I had a better idea because I wanted it to start out like the original theme and sort of evolve.
Makes sense.
To where it was more orchestral towards the end. But this year we just started and we're like, let's do a scary version.
Oh, there you go.
Year.
Okay.
So it starts out scary, but then gets more upbeat towards the end.
Is there anywhere people can find those themes post Chicago TARDIS, or?
All the music, I have a SoundCloud page under Planet 14 Music.
Okay.
So all the music I've done for Chicago TARDIS is up there, but not the themes because it's copyright. I don't really.
Right. Yeah. So I was wondering about that. So are they okay with you doing it for the event, or is that kind of like a?
Yeah, I mean, I've never gotten any pushback on it.
Right.
I always burn CDs with the theme on them, but I don't sell them. I give them out every year.
Absolutely.
So I'm not making any money off doing it, and I've never had any issue with it. So, I mean, I haven't checked. There was a site that a bunch of people had contributed.
Okay.
Doctor Who versions of the Doctor Who theme to, and I did one. God, it was probably about 20 years ago, and I'm not sure if it's still even active or not.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the only thing I haven't really ever made available online, just because I'm kind of concerned about the legal issues.
So I mean, a musician, like what kind of music do you do outside of the convention contributions?
I do mostly electronic stuff. Some like more industrial type stuff, and it's weird because I do electronic, but I grew up listening to orchestral music, so
Gotcha.
I kind of like doing orchestral and electronic music. Of course, the orchestral stuff is all
synthesizer.
It's all software. It's not.
You're not out there like.
No, I wish. I'd love to be able to write something and get an orchestra to play it, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
That's cool. Do you do commissions for people for like themes and things too? Or
I've done some soundtracks for low-budget movies.
What are the movies? That I want to know. Yeah, this is
There's
interesting.
a movie that came out early 2000s called Unknown.
Okay.
I did the score for that, and then we produced a movie, basically the same people that are involved in the books in Chicago TARDIS, that came out in 2010, and I did the music for that. And I used to do music for fan videos and audios in the early 2000s.
Okay. Very cool.
There was a group in Australia that did audios that I used to do music for.
Oh, very cool.
All the time back then. But yeah, I'm always willing to do music for people if they want it.
Very cool. I'll keep that in mind. Just finding themes and stuff like that. Very cool. Is Unknown available to watch anywhere now? Or?
It was on Amazon for a while. I'm not sure if it's available. The other movie we did was Thriller Theater, and that was the one that the group of us that are involved in Chicago TARDIS did. Sophie Aldred was actually in it also.
Okay.
That, I think, is still available on Amazon, but I'm not entirely sure.
All right. Well, I mean, depending on when someone listens to it, it could be. It might not be. So it could be currently. What's a dream thing for you to score that isn't Doctor Who?
I'm a big fan of horror movies, so I'd love to score a horror movie.
Okay. Any particular director or anything that you'd want?
I mean,
whoever will take me.
That's pretty much it. I mean, if anyone wanted me to do a score for a horror movie, I don't care how low budget it is. I would.
What's a horror movie score that you like to go back to a lot? That it maybe inspires you, or you just like to relax to it, or listen to while you're working?
I think probably I'm a huge Jerry Goldsmith fan.
Okay.
So if I had to pick my favorite score for a horror movie, it would probably be Alien.
That's a good score.
And
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a
ominous, but
on that. It's the actual score that was written for the movie, because they used a lot of music from other.
Okay.
His music from other movies, like some music from Freud.
Right.
So I heard about that a long time ago, and now I can pick out exactly where that music is in the movie. At the time I saw it when I was like 15.
Yeah.
That's not something I would have ever been able to spot, but the actual score that's released, there's a two CD set that came out a few years ago.
Gotcha.
That has the whole score. So
they just kind of, I was just curious. They just did screenings of Nosferatu with Radiohead's Kid A and Amnesiac set to it. Did you check out that at all?
I did not.
I wasn't available that night to go see the screening, but they were doing that like a week or so ago. And I was like, that sounds cool.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so I was like, I wonder if you checked that out. But yeah, they were doing it here in 35 millimeter.
Oh, okay.
But nationwide they had a digital one night release or something like that. So but I had a friend go in California, and he told me it was awesome. He didn't really say it was awesome. He just said it was quite interesting and good.
Yeah, so. It would be weird. A lot of people will have issues changing stuff like that.
Right, but it's an experiment.
Right.
I'm down. I've seen Nosferatu like a ton, so a new way to enjoy an old classic.
Yeah.
Might as well try.
And it's sort of like, I mentioned Alien earlier, but 2001 was all pre-recorded music.
Yeah.
But the composer Alex North did a score for the movie that Kubrick really kind of had no intention of ever using. And I've always wondered if anyone ever redid the movie with his original score.
Oh, I bet you can find some fan-made sync to it. That's true. I had for a long time, there was the movie Halloween H2O ditched its score and went with some temp tracks and a hurried up score. And they released the other score that I always want to hear, and it sounded great, but I'm like, it didn't fit this movie too much. And it was weird.
It's weird, things like that, because there's what Doctor Who story was it? Paradise Tower.
Oh yeah. And
the original score is on the Blu-ray set, so you can watch it with that.
I love those options. Yeah.
But it seems weird, but I don't know if it seems weird just because I'm so used to the original.
You have it embedded from watching over and over, and then it's like, well, that's not like the old. Well, it's not supposed to be. It was.
Yeah.
It was like that. So that's great. Do you want to plug anything you got going on, or where people can find? I know you mentioned your SoundCloud, so if you want to mention it again.
And I also I released an album in 2022 called The Greatest Adventure, and it was for the 50th anniversary of the Apollo missions.
Oh, very cool.
So I did a track for each of the crewed missions. So 1 and then 7 through 17.
Oh, nice.
And that's available on Bandcamp.
Okay, Bandcamp.
So if you go to Planet 14 Music on Bandcamp, you can buy that there.
I suppose for it's a bit different because Doctor Who means employment to a degree, as well as being a fan. I mean, I grew up with John Pertwee and Tom Baker as my doctors. As a child, it's probably my favourite programme, and it's been with me all my life actually. So it's been very important to me.
Well, the guest of honor at Doctoberfest 2024.
Sounds odd though, doesn't it?
Is it weird to be celebrated like that? Keith
yes.
Barnfather, that's his name, by the way.
That's his name.
That's his name, by the way.
It's all going so well. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously there has always been over the years, as time has gone by, a degree of recognition by people, which is lovely. But I think if I started feeling comfortable being called an important guest at something, I'd start to worry.
Right, you're very humble from talking to you. Like there's stuff about. I mean, yeah, I can be the same way. I get it. But you've done good work. You've contributed a lot to the history of Doctor Who and then added entertainment with spin-offs and things like that. You kept using the word pioneer.
Some may disagree.
Some may disagree. Some may not have seen yet.
That's true.
That's the
all available at www.timetraveltv.com.
Yes, very much so.
Not that I'm advertising.
And you've given me some work to do as well. Like that's been for the Doctor on Display series.
Yeah, he did brilliantly as well.
Did what? Oh yeah. You didn't see me. You just were told. But
well,
hey,
what I received was wonderful.
There we go, and we got more in the future coming. We got the USA tour.
Yep.
And what was it like? What did you experience the USA tour at all, or
no?
What did you heard about it before going into the USA tour?
Well, I mean, most fans in the UK heard about it.
Okay.
And we saw the publicity launch in the UK. But after that, it pretty much went off our radar. I mean, if you think about it, we had our own exhibitions that were bigger and better. And I don't mean that they were, because they were simply bigger and better, because the USA tour was a truck.
Yeah.
With a small number of exhibits in it going around the country in America. So I'm in no way am I belittling it. I think it's very important. But obviously, the focus for fans in Britain was what was in front of them.
We know what this is. Yeah. Well, so when we were shooting the documentaries somewhat concurrently, the USA tour one is the one that fascinated me because I'd seen blurbs about it on DVDs. Because I've been too young to have been at experienced that, and my parents didn't take me those sort of things when they happened. But I'm just listening to this thing, and I'm like, it's kind of cool. It's kind of a train wreck. It's kind of cool. It was fascinating to me, some of the things and the different stories from the people, because while many were like, yeah, it was cool for me as a kid, there are some people who are like, eh. Well, I think it depended on what city you saw it in, too.
Yeah, and I think also it obviously to American fans of the time, it would have been massively important if they knew about it and went to see it either at their local PBS station or at a mall or wherever, because there were different places it stopped at. But it was the first chance you would have to actually see and get close to, and in some cases touch, like Bessie, props from the program. And I think that, from everything that I've got from those people that I've interviewed as well, is that was massively important to them. That they felt that they got close to the program. And I think the documentary about it is giving voice to that time and that period and their memories.
Yeah, I would have liked something when I was a kid growing up with that, which is why I'm trying my children to take them to see things like that. Like the minute Jodie Whittaker regenerated, there was a convention. Her first U.S. appearance was a month later in Columbus, Ohio. Took them right there, got them a chance to got the photo op to meet her, things like that, and they still talk about it this day because I'm like, yeah, you can really meet the people that you see on TV, and you can work with them too. That you grew up with as you'd experienced as well.
I think it's always that moment in your life when you meet your hero.
Right.
And I think that stays with you forever. Meeting John Pertwee.
Yeah, you talked about that. We had a panel, by the way, which we can highlight some of the things there as well.
I was interviewed by a really good interviewer.
Yeah. Where did he go?
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Very much. But yeah, we highlighted some of that. But in who do you notice in who they seem more attuned to liking collaborations after they're out of the show and stuff like that? They seem more attuned to.
I think what has happened over the years is that Doctor Who has become I mean, we all bandy these terms around,
right.
you know, phenomenon,
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
But it is amongst the actors who appeared in the program a family.
Yeah.
And I think the fans have a family as well. And there is a sort of crossover now between the two. I've said many times in the past that I think what's also blurred is the relationship between fans and the actors, because way back in the 70s, shall we say, you'd have the program, the fans. Nowadays you have this weird blending of everything. You've got, you know, you have podcast. Look what we're doing here now.
Right here, yeah.
This is professional.
Yeah.
You know, you would have interviewed actors from the program doing this. So you're a professional, but you're also a fan.
Yep.
So we didn't get that back in the day.
Right.
Now you've got a huge blur in the middle.
True.
Where actors work for fans, or they, you know, because the convention circuit, essentially, they're working for the fans.
Yeah.
Not the other way around. So the whole world has become, not because of the advance of technology as well, the whole world has changed.
Right. Yeah. No, it's easier
That's my deep and philosophical comment for the interview. That's it now. I'm done.
Well, it's easier to connect.
Yeah.
Us working together, it's like much easier nowadays than it would have been. So let's go back to, like, if you started
Well, that's it. The technology has also been assisting
right.
in that change.
Right, because in the 80s, if you were wanting to kind of cover the stuff we did on this documentary over here in the United States, your process might have been a lot more difficult.
Virtually
likely.
impossible.
Impossible. You'd have had to fly over here yourself, look people up. Like, now you can, like, call out and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's also even the simple thing of standards conversion. You know, when I was growing up, right through until I left Channel 4 in 1982, you still, right through until, so I suppose about 2005, you would need to have a standards converter to convert video that was shot in America to the British format and vice versa.
Okay.
Nowadays, you can do it on your computer. And in fact, if you're doing streaming, you don't have to worry about formats at all.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, streaming is, while I'm a big proponent of physical media and stuff, I do see that I am not a dying breed, but a more niche breed, and it probably always was. They convinced people like DVD was it for, you know, like the thing to do, and then a lot of people realized maybe I'm not into bonus features and stuff all the time, and streaming was easier, and it's still I use streaming as much as I physical. I think it's a good rental system too.
Yeah.
To do. And yours, so real time, like you get the experience, like you get to watch it or you can buy it, and do you give them a file when you buy it, or do you
we
access to your site?
delineate the three completely.
Okay.
You can either buy the DVD, buy the download, or buy the stream.
Okay.
You know, you can do one of the three. We don't. The problem for us is the technology involved in providing information to somebody who buys the DVD, which is then has to be tailored purely to them. Otherwise, they could pass that access information to somebody else.
Gotcha.
Blah blah blah, and then it's, you know. So you need it to be foolproof. On the best thing to do is just leave them separate.
Gotcha.
You know, give the people the choice. Give
Right.
you the choice.
Your choice. And if you're a U.S. person, you do have NTSC on your DVDs.
Yes,
Right,
all our
so-
DVDs that are sold here, or by us to here, or by dealers here, are all NTSC. And obviously all of our stuff that is available to download or stream is available in a format that you can play. So, you know, you don't have to worry.
Gotcha. Which ones did you bring with you this weekend to Doctoberfest?
Well, it was mainly the ones that Keith and Janie ordered.
Okay.
Because they brought all the stock over and I came with it.
Mhm.
Most of it anyway, in a box.
If you order this much, I come for free. I come with it free.
I'll tell you, the bubble
Right.
wrap they needed
There you
for
go.
me,
Yeah.
it took a lot longer to wrap. Most of it is things that and I don't want to speak for Keith, but I think he thought they would sell better, which is the ones that he knows in classic who are the most popular.
Right.
Pertwee, Baker, although he's taken a lot of the Doctors of all the eras, our Mythmakers compilation DVDs. He's also taken things like Return to Devil's End, Who on Earth is Tom Baker, Who is Tom Baker unauthorized, you know, and some of the other ones that have Tom in it. You know,
he's
because he knows
still popular to this day.
Exactly,
Still there.
especially in classic Who.
Oh yeah, that's my personal favorite in the classic Who era. But I mean, you get the Hinchcliffe era of more horror-based stuff. Which, what are the things outside of Doctor Who that interest you? That go because you're very very associated with Doctor Who, but what's on the outside?
Well, I mean, as we were talking about in the panel, you know, the company Real Time itself still is, but was mainly an independent production company, and I would work on anything. So I would be doing corporate, business, television.
Gotcha.
Some documentaries for other countries. Since I met Anastasia, we've done a lot of Greek language programming for the Mediterranean world. We're working on some at the moment. But outside of sort of the production work, I suppose my biggest interests are history.
Okay.
I love history, and I think all politicians should have a full history course on the history of the world before they become elected, because most of them seem to have forgotten the lessons of history.
Right. I do give the younger kids, like I had a conversation one time with somebody, they don't learn history, right? I'm like, well, when did you graduate school? Okay, how much time has passed since then? They now have to learn that on top of what you learned. It's just so much.
True.
But going in politics, that's a different thing. But yeah, definitely, because we do repeat a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But
we won't get into politics.
We do that in America sometimes.
Yeah. I'm saying nothing. I want to get home. Someone's taking photographs.
There we go.
We should get.
You're not charging, are you, for that?
I am. Yeah. We should. Kathryn, can you take a photograph
of
us while we?
There we go.
On?
This is interesting for.
Yeah. This is really interesting.
Watch behind the scenes of the photograph.
Yeah,
that's what we'll do.
Photograph now. Be back in a sec. Hold on.
There we go.
Get the next question out. Yeah, just do a couple of us as a bit, because we've got to get it all on Facebook. That's another conversation.
Yeah.
You could have marketing.
Yeah.
Get everything in. Yeah. Get the cats in. Yeah. I'm doing my director bit. Back. No.
There you go.
We'll carry on.
All right, we'll just talk like this.
Yeah,
yes.
Right,
all right.
So it is the fact that I spend so much time now marketing.
Right.
I'll spend an hour, 2 hours a day on Facebook.
Right.
Pushing everything that we're doing, because and I need to do Instagram more. You know,
right.
We do Tumblr and stuff, but it can eat up your day.
No, that's my least. So people ask me about, because I advise people locally and stuff about podcasting and things like that, and my least favorite thing is sharing it all on social media, because it takes so long, and each of your social medias expects a different aspect from
yes.
it.
It is ridiculous.
I have not dove in. I have not dove into TikTok at all, just because TikTok's
Kathryn's
a whole
done
nother
the photos now. It's all right.
Photos again. It's good. You'll see it.
She's lovely.
You'll see it. But yeah, like, I haven't even gotten to TikTok, because I'm like, that's going to eat up another 20 minutes of my day of posting.
Yeah, I know.
And I sometimes I feel bad for some of my episodes. I just don't have it in me in a week to sit and promote.
You know. We finish now then.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's where. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you're making your living off doing stuff like this too. So that's got to be part of your day.
Not
yeah.
now. No.
Not now,
I mean, I'm never going to retire.
Sorry. Yeah.
Right. Because
how many of us are going to get to these days?
And also, I don't really think. No, and I could retire.
You could?
I
okay.
could. No, I
you
could.
All
I've
right.
been very lucky.
All
very
right.
successful business, but I'm not rich, but I could retire.
Right.
But I don't want to, because I don't know what people out there think, but I've generally always found that when you stop work, everything starts to stop. For some reason, something within us slows down, and we lose the drive in our lives.
Yeah.
Now, nobody wants to sort of completely carry on working at the same level.
No.
But so I've dropped doing corporate and business television now, and
Gotcha.
the only work I do now is essentially this, which isn't work.
Yeah.
It's
what you're in you to do. You're not, it's like you're one.
Well, I love
my
job. I mean, I loved it. Any corporate job, we were out filming in the wilds of wherever, filming some person talking about their computer. I still loved it.
Right.
Because it was what I do, So.
Now you're on your own time. That's
Yeah, exactly.
Real time, your own time.
This is my own time now. Yeah, and it's it's choosing the things you want to do rather than doing the things that you have to do.
Right. Yeah. Have you ever? I mean, if there was a, let's try. That's a Doctor Who related question for you as a
He'll
filmmaker.
be back in a minute.
Yeah. Tick tock.
Send me a postcard.
Tick tock.
Anyway, I'll talk to you. You ready?
I got it. So, if you could if you could have directed a serial in any era of Doctor Who, what would have been prime for you with your talents and abilities? Like, which would have fit you the best?
Probably wouldn't have got any story.
Trying to throw that out there.
Well, I mean, it would have been to either do a Tom Baker or John Pertwee.
So
picking between them is really difficult because I would say, although this is odd, right? But although if I chose my favourite, it would be the John Pertwee era. But my favourite period within periods is the sort of end of Philip Hinchcliffe, beginning of Graham Williams period.
Okay.
I adore both of those times.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, like, I mean, Image of the Fendal, you know,
Well,
Stones
Boucher
of
who
Blood.
did 1, 2, 3, and then dropped the mic and went to Blake 7.
Yeah, but there was some
What could have
lovely
been?
stories at the end of the Baker.
Yeah.
You know, the last couple of Philip Hinchcliffe seasons. You know, into the first season of Graham Williams.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of a hangover transition.
Yeah, and
that you can see.
Then they went a bit downhill.
I will say I have. Oddly enough, it was never intended to be in a certain way, but with all we know now, I look on like season 18, Tom's final, with a different lens that strengthens it a bit. Like knowing the attitudes there, and just there's kind of a thing I've written in my mind that I like that fits with it, and it's like a really stronger season to me than before.
You know, I mean, Leisure Hive is a wonderful story. You know, I mean, it's one of my favourites of that time. Unfortunately, Lovett Bickford, who directed it, I was working at I was working in the BBC late one night.
Right.
I actually worked at the BBC during that period. So what I would used to do, I was in engineering, and I would I could watch Doctor Who in engineering in VT when they were doing the recordings in the studio. If I wasn't working, if I'd come off duty, I could go upstairs and watch in the gallery, this kind of thing. So it was great, you know. But this particular story, watching the studio recording was painful because they were just not getting shots in the can. And the director was basically doing single camera film style shooting.
Oh, wow.
Rather than multi-camera studio shooting. I mean, there was occasions he was doing both. But for the most part, he was trying to shoot it far more paced than you can do in television at that time.
Gotcha.
You know, you've got a certain amount of time to get a Doctor Who story done.
Right.
You've all heard the stories about
lights
10
go
o'clock,
off.
lights go, and it was true. I've seen it happen. I was there. You know, you cannot believe the fact that the lights would just go flick in the middle of a scene.
That's so crazy.
You know? But the director, Lovett Bickford, knew this. You know, you sign up for something, you've got to get it done, right? Anyway, so that night I finished my my shift, and in those days you used to get a cab home if you're on late.
Right.
So I was on late, so I would finish about midnight, maybe 12:30. So I went down to reception, and they call you, and your cab's there.
Okay.
Got in the cab, and somebody else got in the back with me, and we're sort of driving out.
Okay.
And we just sort of smiled at each other, and he said, "Oh, where do you work?" And I said, "Oh, we're doing VT." And he said, "Oh," I said, "Well, what are you doing?" He said, "I was directing Doctor Who," and it was Lovett Bickford.
Oh, wow!
And I said, "Oh, how did that go?" And he went, "I'll never do another one again."
Oh, wow!
It was hell. I mean, it really was a terrible experience for him because he was trying to make something that he didn't have the time to do.
Gotcha.
And that was the big problem. That's why it does look so good, that story.
Yeah.
Because it was shot in a way that you can't afford to shoot Doctor Who.
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
But I just remember him saying, "I will never do another one."
That's so funny. Like,
Yeah.
oh, well,
and it was
all
so
right.
funny. He was in the cab with me.
You just watched it, left, and he
tell
hustled
him.
out. Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't say, "Oh, I'm a Doctor Who fan. I'll just put that on." Well, I can't put it on social media. It didn't exist.
No,
then.
back.
But I can let the fans.
Can you
know.
imagine the stuff that would have been?
You have to be. I mean, I don't mean it to sound aggrandizing, but you have to be professional. You can't let that out. I mean, I'll say it now because it doesn't matter.
It's
but in
way
those
beyond
days,
the fact. Yeah.
You see, it was outside my remit. I was a BBC employee that did not go to the fans. You know.
Gotcha. I hear you. That's great. Yeah. So, how's your Doctoberfest experience been so far?
A strange in a nice way.
Okay.
You know, because this is utterly unique.
Right.
There's nothing like that. I've never seen an event like it.
They're quick to tell people it's not a con, it's a festival.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Desperate, in fact, to tell you it's not a con.
Yeah.
So it isn't a con. That could be misconstrued.
Yes.
You're not being conned,
Yes.
you're being festivaled. Yeah, if you
Yes.
come to Doctoberfest. But I do find it engaging.
Gotcha.
It's completely different and fun. And everybody is having a good time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very informal.
Yeah.
You know, it's bijou, isn't it? It's
Yes.
bijou.
There you go.
Bijou, yeah.
Did you go through the museum at all? Or in there?
I've been through the shop, but I think
Okay.
on Monday I'm staying over.
All right.
Maybe I shouldn't say this if it goes out before Monday.
It won't.
Oh, that's all right then. Ha ha. But on Monday I'm going to come back.
Okay.
And just spend a bit of time and go around the shop and have a chat with Keith and Janie, and that'll be
Excellent.
lovely. I really look forward to that.
Very,
But
very good.
I said during the panel, as you know, because
Yep.
he interviewed me, as you know. I said that everybody should be grateful and appreciate what Keith and Janie have done.
Yeah.
Because this is such a rare thing to make a shop, a Doctor Who shop, work in America.
Right, in central Indiana, too.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's a crazy
Indiana.
thing when I moved here.
I don't know what's
finding
wrong
it
with
out.
Indiana, everybody. You get it. Everybody keeps saying Indiana.
Indiana,
Does Indiana have a reputation in
well, we're
America?
not Ohio, I guess. That's
I
one
don't
thing
know.
that I've heard.
Yeah.
So, but Ohio might say we're not Indiana.
Yeah,
I
not
don't
in
know.
Kansas anymore.
No, Indianapolis. I've enjoyed my time here. I moved here from Los Angeles and have not looked back once. I've rather enjoyed my. I wouldn't be working on Doctor Who documentaries in Los Angeles, to be honest with you, probably. So
maybe he should
there
have
you go.
stayed, everybody. You know.
So things like that. But anything else you want to say, people, before we sign out?
No, I mean, I suppose, you know, one has to do one's marketing and say,
Right.
you know, if you know about real time, or if you'd like to know about real time, do go to our sales website. You can buy either DVD, download, or stream of our productions. There's a lot there. Go and have a look and test something and see if you'd like to participate.
Do we have a date for the USA tour one we talked about a bit?
We're hoping. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I choke up when I'm talking about production.
That's emotional, I know.
I know. We're hoping to have it out for February.
Okay. Looking forward to it. I'm really excited for that one. That got some good stories.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, you know, I mean, it's odd it's difficult to sit here and praise what you do because that's just so,
Right.
you know, it's so self-seeking.
Right.
But I'm very proud of a lot of the stuff we put out.
But when it's a documentary, it's other people are contributing, so
Yeah.
you're proud of the collective work of everybody. And
Absolutely.
without their stories, what do we have? You know?
Exactly. Yeah,
So-
and if it wasn't for the fans, we wouldn't be able to survive. So I'm always grateful.
Excellent. Oh, I appreciate your time, Keith, and enjoy the rest of your Doctoberfest.
Okay, I'm looking forward to a beer tonight.
Yeah, definitely some beer.
Yeah.
Well, a pint? Is that what we say? Right?
Well, I don't know if they do pints here in America.
Oh, wait, they have pints.
Yeah. Oh, I'll measure
Pint
them
glass.
then.
Yeah,
Good.
we'll measure them. All right, yeah, you'll measure. All right, thank you. All right, thank you to everybody. Thank you to Who North America, Keith and Janie, for having me back to Doctoberfest 2024 Infiltrate. Hope you've enjoyed watching. Thanks to all my guests throughout the day and all the vendors, and I hope to see you all again at Doctoberfest 2025. All right, I am here with Raphael Warnock. That's right. That's your name.
No, Rob. I think you're thinking of the senator.
I am.
Yes. Which, hey, I never thought there'd be a
Rob Warnock.
I never thought there would be a
right.
Warnock.
Wow, that was a.
I think it's actually kind of cool.
Just introduce yourself. There you go.
Hello, I'm Rob Warnock.
There you go, Rob. That's crazy. I went there. My brain. I'd talk all day, and that's what happens. So, all right.